Hey, hey, tribe. What is today? Happy Friday? Happy Friday. Okay, so hey, what's up? Happy Friday. I know I've moved this around a couple times because we are in the process of getting everything finalized to move. So I've just been really busy with that and just figuring out other things because we're in obviously a transition state here. So anyways, I had some people say that if I did a book review on this, they wanted to hear about it. So that's what I'm here to do today. This is kind of in the new topic of motherhood, womanhood, femininity. And this was just a really, really good book. It was so insightful. So I heard about this book on a YouTube video from another woman that actually talks about femininity and how important that is, and kind of why God made women and their purpose here. And she's also an Orthodox Christian, which is another reason that I started watching her. And I can't remember her name right off the bat just because I haven't watched anything in a while. But she recommended this book and I was like, okay, well, that sounds interesting. So I'm going to read it. And I'm super glad I did. So I knew a little bit of this, like this woman named Margaret Sanger. I believe I said her name right, but she started Planned Parenthood. And I kind of knew her just because of that through Planned Parenthood and how that's like a super corrupt company and where it originated from and its initial intentions when she started Planned Parenthood, which, you know, she's part of the first wave feminism, and she was actually raised by an atheist and a socialist, and they believed in doing what Germany was doing with the eugenics. So making sure that certain people lived and certain people died to create like the ideal society. So her family, her father and her believed in that, and so she started Planned Parenthood. And one of her quotes, I have notes on here, so if you see me looking down, but one of her quotes, it included that she was using birth control not only to liberate women, but also to benefit the human race by preventing births that would be detrimental to the ideal society. So that's just one of the women in this book that she talks about for the first wave feminism. And there was also a lady named Susan Anthony, and she helped initiate that feminism wave by basically rejecting traditional marriage. She was all about free love and getting rid of the societal norms of sexuality and marriage and all of that stuff. Even though she was married and had 7 children herself, she was pushing against that, which I found kind of odd. A couple of these women that helped push feminism in general were pretty sleazy. Like I said, they were pushing free love. They just weren't like committed people. They were either atheist or Gnostic, just or like focused in on self. They didn't really like have a like God per se. So if you believe in God, these women definitely did not. So that definitely, this changed their mindset around womanhood and marriage and traditions. Another thing that this book really pointed out was like in the 50s, technology kind of took off, right? So then now you have dishwashers and now you can order things on like through a magazine and all these things. And so the roles of a traditional housewife kind of diminished from what it was. And so women kind of lost that purpose in their role. They didn't really like understand what they were supposed to be doing now. And they haven't figured out how to navigate that, right? So before, the 50s, you would have to like have skills, right? You would have to make clothes. You would have to make sure everyone had coats. You would have to make sure that everyone had enough blankets during the wintertime. Maybe you were growing Well, most likely you were growing a garden to make sure food was stored for the wintertime and so you eat throughout the year. Like maybe you were picking out chickens and butchering them. Like you had a huge role with your husband, right? Working together to make sure that your family was provided for. And in more extremes, like it's not as easy, right, as it is now, right? What?
I forgot that abortion.
Okay, I'll talk to her in a minute. Thank you. So it was more extreme in our roles. And so the role of motherhood and womanhood kind of became undervalued, right? They lost their purpose. And in that, that's where these ideas of feminism really started to take root, because women were feeling unsatisfied. They didn't really know what to do with all this modern technology and how they, like, it did enhance their life in a good way, but they didn't know how to function with it. And so now they're starting to become unsatisfied with their work. And so like people like, trying to remember her name here, like Susan, she was like, oh, well, you guys feel unfulfilled. Like, well, why don't you guys just pursue a career? Like, we don't have to be locked into our biological purpose of producing children. Like, we don't have to be married. We can have free love. Like, they just started pushing these other ideas. And because women felt unhappy or unsatisfied with their work, it was easily planted, right? That idea. So the first wave of feminism came from the technology advancement after that first war. And these women that were already not very good, they didn't have morals, they didn't have good morals, they weren't great women anyways, started planting these seeds and got a lot of women on board to start pushing these different ideas that were ungodly, or, like Margaret's ideas, right, that were focused in on getting abortion rights, and alcoholism became a thing, which whatever, like I'm sure there's some things here that we're not all going to agree with, but I'm just trying to state that there was a lot of seed planting in a time that was in a transition that wasn't necessarily a good thing for society. And in that, went into the second wave where we really started burning down all the traditional things about womanhood, okay? Everything that womanhood was about, we started burning when we were entering into the second wave in the 60s. So I'm gonna take a drink. So in the second wave, we had Betty Friedan, I believe. And so she started encouraging unhappy housewives in her book, The Feminine Mystique. And this was all about getting rid of the biological role of childbearing in general, and to have women pursue higher pursuits. So that's when the burning of the traditional family began, and also the drugs for feminism began, right? Or the drugs for unhappiness, I can't talk. Unhappiness, right? So there was things called these like Mother's Little Helpers, I guess. And I guess the Rolling Stones has music about this. But the tranquilizers is what they were, right? For what we now call as antidepressants, which probably isn't as extreme as it was then. But drugs for antidepressants started coming out then because women were now like pursuing these other things too, on top of their already dissatisfaction with the lack of work in the home. Now they're like pursuing not having traditional families. Like the rate for childbirth had dropped in half in the 60s. And then, so now they're pursuing these outside of the home, this free love, like this lack of traditional family role. And now we're introducing the drugs, right? The tranquilizers to help boost the mood of the housewife. And so that just gets into a whole nother topic that I'm not going to go down right now. But going from the 50s to the 60s, some of these things that these, first wave feminism were pushing for started coming to fruition. Like all these things started happening. Like birth control was starting to become legal. Like you could choose whether you worked outside of the home or inside of the home. There was tranquilizers to help boost your mood. Like there were things that these first wave feminism wanted that were definitely happening. And now we have people, or mothers or wives or whoever, that are more depressed than before. So like it didn't improve any happiness in the second wave feminism. It made it worse. And then on top of that, then we go into the third wave, which is what we're in now. And me and a friend were just talking about this the other day. And like, if you look at like feminism today, like we're not happier. We're not happier, like at all. There's so many more antidepressants. There's more mental illness. There's more suicides today. There's more mothers feeling unfulfilled. I mean, there's literally, it's not any better at all. Like it's gotten way, way, way worse. And now we're just a third wave of feminism. No one really knows what we're fighting for. We're pushing for all these different angles, leading to confusion. All these women are just angry. Now we're pushing for like transgender, like it's just weird, right? We're in this weird third wave feminism that doesn't make any sense and is just really messing stuff up now, right? And so this book talks about all this more in depth, right? So it talks about, the history of how we even got into first wave feminism, starting with the war, the technology, going into second wave, and kind of how that stuck, how we are pushing for abortion rights, the free love, that having access to alcoholism, having access to voting. And I'm not saying that some things good didn't come from this. Obviously, like I'm happy to be able to vote if that's what I want to do, or participate in drinking or whatever. Like there's some good things that came from this, sure, from my understanding, right? From my understanding. But there was a lot of bad things that rooted from this. And we've just gotten to this point where we've totally neglected what womanhood is. Like now all of us are trying to be men, right? Which I saved a spot in this book. Somewhere, maybe. But they kind of talk about man jobs in here. Like how there's like some jobs that women don't want to do. Like at the end of the day, like if we're really being real with each other, like there are jobs that women don't want to do. Like you might find one here and there, but you're not always going to find a woman that wants to do like straight up construction. Like it's rare. There's some, but it's rare. Plumbing. I mean, there's stuff girls don't want to do and that a man is going to do, right? He's going to step up and do these roles. And, like most of this world was built from men. And to shield our eyes from that, to shield some of the, the city work, like the manure, like all these things that a woman doesn't really want to do, and say that, I hope you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying like, okay, so moving on. So towards the end of this book, I found this really cool because she goes into like what we're actually made for, right? And this is from a biblical, godly perspective, right? So she goes into like how the beauty of a woman, right? The beauty of a woman, and how when God, formed Adam and then took the rib from his side to form Eve, right? Like Adam being under God, and then an extension of Adam. So if we look at the beauty of a woman as being an extension of man, right? And she puts it in just a beautiful way. And she kind of talks about like our home. Let's just think about our home, right? If you've ever been to a man's bachelor pad, it's normally a wreck. It's it's terrible, right? There's no beauty to it. It's messy. Like, it's just, there's nothing to it. There's no beauty, right? But a woman, if she were to walk into that home and take over that, she's going to make that home beautiful. A man can't do that. I mean, most men can't do that. Maybe some. But really, that's a woman's thing. Like, she knows how to make things beautiful. And so a woman is an extension of a man. She puts flesh onto things, right? The man is the structure of something, and she's the flesh. She is the beauty to it. She is the extension to it. And so she really goes into that on the beauty of womanhood, on the, even like, you know, creating children. You're bringing life into the world, right? You're bringing another soul into the world, and you're raising that child yourself, if you're a stay-at-home mom or a homeschooler, and you're raising that child into someone beautiful, right? If you take on the role and you really like put your intention into it and really sow the seeds, you're raising something to be beautiful. And the man goes out to provide, to do, you know, so you can do your job. So you can do your job of making the home beautiful and providing the knowledge and the beauty to a child. So I know today it's different, right? Today is different because we do have all this technology. You could be a home really depressed as a mother and as a stay-at-home wife if you don't put some purpose to it, if you don't make it where you have fulfillment. So yeah, you could sit at home on your couch and be on your phone all the time, and become overweight. Like, you could implement all these unhealthy habits and cause like disgrace to yourself, or you could be like, okay, well, you know, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom, so I'm going to really put my role in this, right? I'm going to really beautify this. And so I'm going to make my home beautiful. I'm going to learn new skills. I'm going to learn how to grow a garden and maybe raise some meat birds and train my children up in a way that when they go out into society, they're good people. Like, there is still purpose in being a stay-at-home mom and being a housewife, I guess. And we don't have to be unfulfilled. You can still have a career at home too. Like, you can still, I mean, I do this, like, I do stuff on media. Do I love it every single day? No. Do I feel like I should be doing something else at home? Absolutely. And that's why I've kind of stepped away from here a little bit, because I find that my duty is at home. My duty is at home. Like, nothing matters more than your family. Nothing matters more than your children. Nothing matters more than, like, you know, your husband's out there working to provide for this family, and you're able to take that stuff that he provides, that money that he provides, and make it into something beautiful, right? Like, into your home, or into the food that you prepare, or into the clothing that you make or you buy, right? You're making it beautiful. You're taking something so kind of simple that he does, even though it may be hard. It might be hard work depending on what he does, but you get to take that and manage it and make your life beautiful. And I think with that, we just take all that for granted nowadays, because women are so freaking confused. Like, what, like, when they put out the documentary, which I did not watch because I'm not going to participate in that, but when they put out a documentary that says, what is a woman? That is crazy to me. That is insane. And I kind of get it, just because it's all in chaos right now. Like, I thought I had a book over here because I have a book called Order Out of Chaos. But I get it. I get it why it came out, because it's just pushing propaganda around it. It's making people more confused. Like, we shouldn't even have a documentary on that. Come on. Like, but we keep buying into it, right? We keep buying into it, and we keep promoting it, and we keep pushing it, right? And we're all like kind of losing our foundation of what a man is, what a woman is, what it's like to actually raise your own children and not send them out into society to do for you. what it's like to stay home and make life out of home. Like, we're just totally forgetting all this stuff because we've been programmed by these women that were not good women, that we're here at this point. We've lost what God made us for, which is just crazy. So I highly, highly recommend this book if you want to go into detail on the past and these different waves of feminism, and then kind of where we are today, and going back to like what women and motherhood was made for in God's eyes. And it's not weird. Like, it's not some like, you got to submit to your husband no matter what. Like, that's not what it's about. It's not like that at all. And we've just been trained to think that that's what it is. And there's so much beauty. There's so much beauty to just being a woman, right? I was lost too. Like, I was lost because I was angry, right? We were angry. And some of us just get angry at our husbands, and because of how society is, we're like, well, screw you. We'll just be one of those feminist women. Like, we get angry and then we think that we don't need a man. And that's not true. There's beauty in having a traditional type of family and a traditional role. And you have so much more peace when you're in that. Like, a lot of peace. As long as your husband is under God, like he's following godly principles, you will have more peace. So I'm not saying like if you're with a man that's like not under God and he's like abusive or whatever, that's okay and you should submit and you should like, I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying like if you're actually following traditional rules and you actually are following the God, then you're not going to have these problems and you're not going to be depressed. You're going to be at peace and know what your role is and step away from like these things, you know, like this is why I don't do social media as much anymore, because I realized that this isn't as important this isn't as important as all of this is. Okay. So I also had a question the other day, and it was, are you done after having this third kid that I have right now? And I don't know. I thought I was done with my second. I was one of those women that like, I didn't even really think about having kids. I didn't really think about what my marriage was going to look like. Like, I didn't think about any of that stuff. I thought more about, what kind of business was I going to start? But that's how I was raised, which was fine. But like, I didn't think about normal like women things. I just didn't. And it was probably a lot of programming. Like when you go through school, like you're getting trained to be in society and not to do anything more traditional. So I got asked, and I'm doing a home birth, and if home birth goes really well, then I'm probably going to have at least one more. And the reason why, because they were kind of shocked. The reason why is because the more that I do research on how the society is today and why it is the way that it is today, the more I realize they don't want us to have children. And if they want us to have children, they want you to have them be put through their system so that they work for society. And another reason is because the more children you have, the less selfish you can be. And I've noticed that even with myself. If you're following more of a traditional role, like if you're just sending them out into the world, like for other people to teach them, then you can still be selfish, right? But if you have to be with them all the time and you have to be their teacher and make their meals and clean up after them, and you make it your full-time job, you have to be less selfish. Like, you have to be. There is no getting around it. And I've noticed that with myself too. Even just learning to cooperate more with my husband and like work more as a team, you have to be less selfish. And it's changed me for the better. And I'm happier. Like, so I don't think having more children is bad. I think it's the way that we've been programmed to think about children, that it hinders you. Just like the second wave feminism women wanted you to think about it, that it should be voluntary, which it should be. I mean, obviously. But they voluntary in a way as, do you want children or do you want to pursue a career? Do you want to be free? Right? Do you want to be free from the burdens of children?
Mom,
like that was their mindset about it. Yeah.
I was making silhouettes.
Okay. Well, I'll hear them soon. So, yeah. I think having more kids and at the end of your life when you're old and, you know, you can't really pursue a career anymore, or you kind of lost the passion for your purpose or whatever it may be, you're going to have kids. You're going to have a family around you. Like, that's way more important to me. I don't want a bunch of cats and a dog at the end of my life. Like, I want family. I want a family at the end of my life. Like, it's more fulfillment. Like, that's more fulfilling than anything. You can accomplish so many freaking goals, whether it's fitness or business or these career goals or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you don't have family or connection to family, like, does any of that really matter? Does any of it really matter? No, you just literally you die. Maybe you leave a legacy. Maybe, if you get lucky, right? Or you become infamous, like these women here that started all these feminism that just led the world into chaos. Like, so these are my thoughts about this. I think that this opens your eyes. This opens your eyes to what feminism was really about, and why we should go back and rebuild the more traditional family and how that can change society for the better. Like, and how it can reduce all this depression and this anxiety and all these suicides. Like, I think if we go back to that, where all of us women are going to be so much happier and more fulfilled in a more traditional role and more at peace. And I'm not the only one, like, out here starting to wake up to this. Like, there's more women that are younger than me, actually, which I'm super proud of them that they caught on, that are younger than me that are saying, like, oh, hey, like, maybe it's okay to be a traditional wife and a traditional mother and stay at home and, like, do our work from home and raise our children. Like, there's more and more of us coming out. And I love it. I absolutely love it, because I can see the change within me, and I can see the change with my children and with my relationship with my husband, with my family. And I realize how separated I am from society, and I'm way more happier about that, because I've known society to be corrupt for a very, very long time. And the more and more that I research, the more I'm confident with who I am and who God actually made me to be and my purpose here. So that's kind of my thoughts overall. I probably went outside of the box. I mean, I did it because it was kind of the gist of what this book's about. But you know how I work. Like, I have thoughts everywhere and I grab them. So yes, check out the book. It's definitely worth the read. Even if you don't agree with it, it will open your eyes to another perception. And if you really are open-minded, like a lot of you people claim to be, then it's something to know. It's something to look at and know, and then debate it. If you really don't agree with it, that's fine. But those are my thoughts on it. I think that we need to go back to more of a traditional life. We need to raise our own children. We need to have more children and live a just simpler life and have a fantastic family at the end of it to leave here to create a whole new, better, moral society. So that's my thoughts. Leave me comments, debate me, haters welcome. I really don't care at this point. And I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. See ya.